Hi guys, welcome to the third and possibly final part of the great guitarists in the 1970s. And great solos in the 1970s indeed. We're going to kind of go to a guy who you may not know. Edward Errol Hazel was the incredibly funky guitar player in the band Parliament. He joined them in 1969. And of course Parliament was George Clinton's band, along with Funkadelic as well. And his sidekick was Bootsy Collins, incredible bass player and, you know, a very funky dude. He had an incredible style. You know, Funkadelic were almost a psychedelic band, but it was psychedelic funk, yeah. Their classic album for me is Mothership Connection. Make my funk the P-Funk, I wanna get funked up. So it's a white impression of a very black band. Incredible guitar player though, incredible guitar player. Wah-wah distortion, psychedelia, rock, jazz, blues, all sorts of stuff coming in his work. He's worked with various people like the Temptations, Bootsy Collins and his solo projects, but fundamentally he was the guitarist for Funkadelic. Quite an incredible guitar player, and one of the tracks that he's so well known for in guitar circles is the solo on Maggot Brain. And if you've never heard this before, it's quite something else. So this is Maggot Brain. Enjoy. I must say that I was never a fan of King Crimson when I was during the 70s. I've only came to them recently, and I've been listening to a lot of the 70s stuff, which is superb. So I'm a late comer to King Crimson, therefore a kind of late comer to Robert Fripp, although I've heard them in other contexts. He formed King Crimson in 1968 and recorded their seminal album in 1969, which is In the Court of the Crimson King. And I'll tell you, that's a tongue twister, that's a really hard thing to say. And that album kind of had a bit of sort of orchestration and jazz overtones in it, but was definitely prog, there's no doubt about that. He developed over the next few years a very angular and intricate style of guitar playing, which you know, it's quite amazing. The album Lark's Tongues and Aspic is fantastic. That was from, I think, 1973. And my favourite is Red. It's almost like a pure jazz album with prog in there. It's incredibly noisy, it's incredibly complex, it's incredibly interesting. It's a proper sit down and listen album. It's not something you're going to put on the background, because trust me, if you did that at a dinner party, you're in serious trouble. Robert Fripp has played with many other people in his career as well, from Blondie to Talking Heads to David Bowie to Brian Eno, lots and lots and lots of different projects he's done. He played on Bowie's Heroes and also Scary Monsters, if I remember correctly. Of course, the band have been split up and revived and split up and revived and all the rest of it. This particular album that I'm going to play you now, this particular track, is Providence, and it's from the album Red, 1974. With it, for me, the classic trio, which is Robert Fripp, John Wetton on bass, and Bill Bruford, the incredible drummer, who also played with Yes. A very inventive and incredible guitar player. He's went a wee bit bonkers in recent years. He used to be a very introverted sort of serious guy, and now he's doing these sort of madcap sort of little cameos in his house with his wife Toya Wilcox, and they're funny and kind of bizarre at the same time. I quite enjoy them. But this is Robert Fripp, stunning guitar player, influential, incredible, brilliant, and this is Providence. The next guy we're going to talk about is Marc Knoffler. And Marc Knoffler, of course, only came in at the end of the 70s. He's actually born in Scotland. He was born in Glasgow, although you wouldn't know that. He never played with a pick. He always finger picked, you know, if that's the word. And very clean, very dynamic tone, I think, because of that. Very different sounds. You know, his playing was at once warm, intricate, flowing, and bluesy. There's lots and lots of different stuff in his playing. You know, lovely bends, and his solos are absolutely captivating, particularly one, and in the late 80s, in 1978, Knoffler recorded Sultans of Swing, and I cannot see past Sultans of Swing. I think it's one of the greatest solos ever. So yeah, everybody knows the song, everybody knows Marc Knoffler, so this is a quick one. This is Sultans of Swing. One of my favourites now. This band were formed in the late 1970s during the punk era. They were formed by a guy called Peter Perrett, and Peter Perrett was rhythm guitar and vocals in this band. And the guitar player was a fantastic guitar player called John Perry. They produced some of the most iconic poppy punky songs of the late 70s. Another Girl, Another Planet is a perfect example of that. It was a great single. It was really made a hit because it was on an advert, and I can't remember what advert it was on, but absolutely iconic beginning to that song, really absolutely superb. You know, for me, Perry was more than a punk guitar player. He had many other influences. I think, you know, Keith Richards, Peter Green, Hendrix, you can kind of get tones of that. Absolutely superb, far more musical than a lot of the punk guys that were going around at the time. I saw the Only Ones in Glasgow about 10 years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, on a kind of comeback thing. And Perrett was amazing. He was like front of the stage, proper showman, rock and roll star. It was amazing. And the record I'd like to play you today, the solo I'd like to play you today, is from another one of their singles, which is called Lovers of Today, which I just absolutely love, and I hope you enjoy it. This is John Perry. This is another band I never saw in the 70s, but I saw them about 10 years ago again, and that's Wishbone Ash. Andy Powell, the guitar player, has been a member of that band forever, since the 70s, and they were regarded as one of the great rock bands because they were the first people to do the kind of twin guitar thing, and with two lead guitar players, which was absolutely fantastic. They produced I think 4, maybe 5 absolutely classic albums in the 70s. So we got Wishbone Ash, the first album, 1970. We had Pilgrimage, 1971. We had Argus, 1972. Wishbone 4 was 73, and they recorded a live album called Live Day. It's a double live album, which was absolutely fantastic. He is a top blues and rock guitarist, is Andy Powell. If you've never heard Wishbone Ash, particularly in the 70s, you must go back, check them out on Spotify, because they're quite sensational. We're going to do a track off of Argus, which I think is the best album. I think it's regarded as the best album by most people. We're going to do Blowing Free, and Blowing Free, when you see them doing this live, is fantastic. It's such a wonderful track. So welcome to Andy Powell, welcome to Blowing Free, enjoy. Glam rock's not got too much of a say in these videos so far, but I'd like to mention just one of the masters, who was Marc Bolin. You know, Marc Bolin started off in the 60s with Tyrannosaurus Rex, with Finn, whatever his name was, Mickey Finn. No, not Mickey Finn. Anyway, the fella Finn, with all the acoustic-y kind of hippie dippy stuff, right? And then when he went into the 70s and started to record these incredible riffs, and almost Chuck Berry-ish type of riffs. He was for me the perfect glam rock star. Absolutely unbelievable. Some of the records, you know, some of the records: Get It On, 20th Century Boy, Children of the Revolution, Metal Guru. I love Metal Guru. It's such a great song. Just iconic stuff. Very, very sad, of course, that he died early in that terrible car accident. But he's influenced a tremendous amount of people, you know, over the years. And he was actually a very good guitar player as well. He didn't play a lot of lead stuff, I have to say. It was mainly kind of rhythm and riffing away. But I loved the glam rock era. There was just something fantastic about it. It was kind of playful, fun, but some of the music was just brilliant, you know, brilliant pop music. Saw Marc Bolin, and I'm so pleased that I did get to see him. I saw him, believe it or not, in the Glasgow Apollo, and he was supported by the Damned, right? And the Damned came on, and they were astonishingly brilliant. This is 77. They were brilliant, and crazy gig. And then Marc Bolin decided not to come on, said he was ill. Now, there's a big thing about this whole gig. All the people were issued tickets for the next night to come back. That was a Saturday night, and then we were invited back on the Sunday night, and we came back the Sunday night, and of course the Damned weren't there. So whether the Damned kind of scared them a wee bit, because the crowd were going a bit bonkers for them. But you know, he was getting on at that point, and in terms of his music, just wasn't quite the same. He was churning out the hits on stage, but the hits were all in the early 70s, and they're magnificent. And I would like to play. He didn't do a lot of solos, but there's a kind of quite great solo in 20th Century Boy. So let's have a listen to that. Steely Dan, love them or hate them. It's a really strange thing. They're so precise in their music. They were such perfectionists in the studio. Donald Fagen and Walter Brecker. Walter Brecker, was actually a great guitar player, but really interestingly, he knew that there was other greater guitar players who, when they did the later albums, lots of session guys came in and did the parts. But Walter produced some great stuff. If you look at the 70s albums, which are quite amazing, we had Can't Buy a Thrill 1972, Countdown to Ecstasy 73, Katie Lied 74, we had The Royal Scam, which I absolutely love, really funky kind of stuff. Asia, that's it. Asia is the album. It's a jazz rock masterpiece. The production in this album and the musicianship in this album, off the scale. So one of the greatest albums ever recorded. And then of course we had Gaucho at the end of the 1970s, 79, end of 1979. So absolutely amazing guitar player, amazing band. So well worth catching up on all their old stuff, because there's really some of the most incredible music, incredibly complex, intricate, unusual chord progressions, beautiful songs. He was a great songwriter. And I think there's a track on the Royal Scam called Haitian Divorce, which is a kind of reggae almost thing. And he uses a voice box or a fuzz tone in the solo, and it's just fantastic. And there's loads of great solos that he's done, but this is a Haitian Divorce. Enjoy. Back to the blues, we're one of the great kings. There was three great King blues players: B.B. King, Freddie King, and Albert King. And Albert King was up there with B.B. for me, one of my favourites. He played a fantastic Flying V Gibson guitar, but he played it upside down, or like it was strung the wrong way, and it was a right-handed guitar, played the left way. I don't know what it was, but he played the guitar in a very, very funny way. He was heavily influenced by T-Bone Walker, who's an amazing guitar player from the 50s, but he kind of developed his own absolutely bending bluesy kind of sound, really evocative kind of sound. He joined Stax Records, and in 1967 he released probably one of the great blues tracks of all time, Born Under a Bad Sign. Every blues band in the world has played that song at some time or another. It's a real absolute classic. He also played, of course, with Booker T and the MGs, which were an absolutely great band. He did also record an album called The Three Kings, I think it was called, with B.B., Freddie, and himself, which was very, very good. And his 70s albums, there was a whole load of them. There must have been 10, 12 albums done in the 70s. But there's one which is called I Want to Get Funky. And he kind of changed his sound a wee bit to a much more funky, groovy sound, yeah? And to get a little kind of feeling about what Albert was doing in the 70s, I'm going to play you the title track, Want to Get Funky. A couple of years back we went to see Station to Station by David Bowie, complete from start to finish in Glasgow, and it was Bernard Fowler on vocals and Eric Slick on guitar were the kind of two main guys. And Slick was fantastic, the ultimate rock and roll star. He just looked like a rock and roll guitarist standing up there. It was great to see him in the flesh. It was a wonderful gig, really enjoyed it. And of course Slick brought a real kind of more bluesy, edgy sound to David Bowie's music. You know, he played on Diamond Dogs, he played on Young Americans, but in particular he played on Station at Station, and Station at Station is one of my favourite David Bowie albums. The track Stay really kind of shows off, I think, Errol Slick's amazing sound. And this is from Station to Station, and this is Stay. Back in the 70s, I bought an album while I was raking through a record shop somewhere by a guy called Johnny Guitar Watson, and I'd never heard him before. It just looked like an interesting album and I liked the name. I bought it and took it home and put it on, and this guy had such a unique guitar style. He was born in Texas. He originally started to play piano, and then he heard T-Bone Walker. Now that's the second time that T-Bone Walker's been mentioned in these videos so far, and he turned to guitar. Incredibly unique sound. It's almost sparse kind of sound, but beautiful blues sounding guitar player. And then he went into a kind of more funky thing. His early days were far more blues influenced, and then as he went on and he got into the 70s, he got a kind of more funky, kind of commercial feel to his music, which is fantastic. The albums that he recorded were brilliant, and some of the top tracks, Ain't That a Bitch, A Real Mother For You, which is brilliant, and I think actually that's the one I'm going to play for you. They're just brilliant, so well worth checking out. Johnny Guitar Watson, if you've never heard them, really absolutely stellar player. Unless you're a proper jazz fusion fan, you may have not heard of this guy. His name is Gary Boyle. Gary Boyle, fantastic guitarist in the John McLaughlin kind of sphere. He started his career with 60s people like Dusty Springfield, Brian Auger, Soft Machine, and developed his style until he founded the band called Isotope in 1972. Absolutely incredible jazz fusion band. Their first album, just called Isotope, is absolutely magnificent. It's kind of a mix of Mahavishnu Orchestra, Soft Machine, just raging guitar. It's not the easiest listen, I have to say, but if you're a fusion fan, you'll love it. So I'd like to play a track from the debut album, just to give you a wee little idea of what Gary Boyle's incredible sound was like. Guys, there's still so many people. There's so many people that I've missed off of this list. I could go on forever. This could be 10 parts, right? But I'm going to cut it here, right? But think about this. So I'm going to literally just list you the guitarists from the 1970s. Now you try and do the same for any other decade. Trust me, you're not going to do it. Have a listen to this. Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Richie Blackmore, Tony Iommi, Eddie Van Halen, Eric Clapton, David Gilmour, Carlos Santana, Frank Zappa, Jeff Beck, Alan Lifeson from Rush, Brian May, Angus Young, Leslie West, Mountain, Steve Howe, Mick Ronson, Rory Gallagher, Tommy Bolin, Al Di Meola, Jazzy, Robin Trower, Joe Pass, Wes Montgomery, Jim Hall, Kenny Burrell, George Benson, Jazz Fusion, John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola, Larry Coryell, Pat Metheny, Alan Holdsworth, Lee Ritenour, Mike Stern, Nile Rodgers, Eddie Hazel, Catfish Collins, Freddie Stone, Curtis Mayfield, Steve Cropper, Bobby Womack, oh my god, B.B. King, Muddy Waters, Albert King, Freddie King, Johnny Winter, Rory Gallagher, Peter Green, Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, Roy Buchanan, oh god, I could have done something on Roy, Jimmy Vaughan, who I love, that's Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, Luther Allison, T-Bone Walker, Clarence Gatemouth Brown, Robert Fripp, Steve Howe, Adrian Ballou, I forgot Adrian Ballou, Jan Ackerman from Focus, Michael Barr, Jethro Tull, Gary Green from Gentle Giant, Trevor Rabin, my god, and then we've got the acousticy stuff, James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Paul Simon, Nick Drake, Cat Stevens, John Denver, Gordon Lightfoot, John Martin, John Fahey, Leo Kottke, Bert Jans, David Graham, Richard Thompson, Doc Watson, Ry Cooder, George Harrison, Lindsey Buckingham, oh my god, Joe Walsh, Brian May, Walter Becker, Steve Lukather, Johnny Thunders, Ace Frehley, Sylvian thing from Japan, Joe Strummer, oh my god, Johnny Ramone, Captain Sensible, oh, we could go on forever. The amount of guitar players from the 1970s is phenomenal. Guys, it's the best era for music. I hope you enjoyed some of the guitar players that I've featured today. I'm going to do more videos on the 70s shortly. I've got a whole list of stuff that I'm so excited to do. We're going to be releasing these videos as time goes on. Do me a favour. Would you please subscribe? Let me get some followers here. Let's get some subscriptions. Like the video, please, because that helps me immensely. And click the notification bell if you want to know of any new videos that are coming up. I really appreciate you listening, should I say, watching. And I'm really enjoying doing these videos. I hope you got something out of that today, and I hope maybe we introduced you to some new brilliant guitarists from the 70s. My name's been Kenny, and I can't wait to see you next time.